Hey everybody, today I have the Huion Kamvas Pro 22. Now this box may look familiar from the one I reviewed last year, but this is the 2019 model and I'm hoping to see some really good improvements. We're going to talk about it in a second.
Keep waking up from the previous night.
Hey, I'm John, an artist and writer, and I do reviews and tutorials on devices and programs that help in the creative process. Now, if you don't want to miss any of my content, click that subscribe button, hit that bell, and you'll be notified anytime I upload new videos.
Right, so let's pay the bills. The display type is electromagnetic resonance, that is short for EMR. The screen size 21.5 inch, aspect ratio 16:9, contrast ratio 1000:1. Gamut is approved from last year up to 120% sRGB. Number of colors is 16.7 million. The response time is also improved at 8 milliseconds. Report rate 266 pps. Laminated, yes. Chemically etched anti-glare glass. We'll talk about that in a second. It's a battery-free pen. Pen pressure is 8,192 levels. Sports tilt, yes. The cornerstone of any pen display is the pen itself. And this pen doesn't disappoint. Now, we've talked about this in two other devices already. And the pen, while not featuring an eraser, features this rubber barrel, and then contouring down into the shape you see here. It's pretty unique. And when I mentioned in the video that I've gotten used to it, I mean I've gotten used to this shape and design where this flat part, as it contours down, sort of fits in your thumb snug like that. And I'm not saying it makes a difference, I'm just saying that it's become very comfortable. It's a little lightweight compared to what you're used to, and there's a little tiny give in the nib, but not enough to impact the line or anything like that, or I'd be complaining about it. 2 programmable buttons, we'll look at that in the driver software, and ultimately just a solid, great performing pen. Now the pen holder, the donut shape, nothing you haven't seen before. 10 nibs in here, pen nib remover, works as advertised. You can put the pen on the side sort of like this. It works fine. I tend to just leave mine like that. It's a little bit loose in this configuration, but not enough where you're going to knock it over or something like that. So a decent spec bump over last year. It still has a 266 polling rate, which we've explained before. What that really is how fast the pen talks to the hardware, which can improve the accuracy of fast strokes. It's industry-leading polling rate for these kinds of things. In fact, it even beats the iPad. The lamination makes a big difference in dealing with the parallax issue. This 22 inch is amongst the best I've ever seen in regards to dealing with that problem. Now the anti-glare etched glass, or whatever it is, adds a little bit of texture. It's not quite as etched as like a Cintiq, but there is some to it, as I'll show when I'm demonstrating the product. On the right we can see little to no parallax. The cursor moves along with the pen tip accurately and quickly. Again, we'll cover that a little bit more when I'm showing the actual applications. Okay, let's do this again. What is parallax? Parallax is, here's the digitizer, here's the glass. The glass is a little bit thick, so the pen, when it's going like this, when you're looking at it, your cursor is offset a little bit from the pen tip because of the thickness of the glass. So the laminated thing here is really important because that minimizes that distance. Is it perfect? No. And the bigger the display gets, naturally the thicker the glass is going to be, so the more parallax you're going to have. But amongst the 22 inches that are available today, this is the only one I know on the market, except for someone that, I found out because I watched Brad's video. But the only one that I know about that I've used mainstream is the Huion. For the unboxing, we're going to do something a little different here to keep you folks awake. The one thing I wanted to point out is that Huion has actually changed the packaging up, which I appreciate because they put all the cables and such right in that little cardboard box right at the top of it. This is the adjustable stand that we've come to know and love. And, wait a sec, freeze. This looks like they actually changed it and gave it a paint job. So this is a little bit of different coating than we're used to seeing. Actually looks nice and actually complements the dark frame of the tablet really nice. Like last year, we have both sets of VESA mount screws. What we're going to do is just place the stand on the back. I'm going to bore you with screwing these things in with the included tool. And that's it, our stand's attached. Adjustment is easy. You're going to pull on this little silver doohickey here, and you get multiple levels of adjustment through your stand. You can't quite get flat, and the lower you get, the stand can have a little wobble to it, but you're probably never going to draw like that anyway, because otherwise you just put the thing flat without a stand. That said, each position, once locked in, it's not going to move on you, so it's pretty sturdy, and they've included it, which is a big plus. So here's what we have in the box. We have the pen holder, a Huion glove. We have instructions as well as a microfiber cloth to clean it. Thank you card, that little doohickey tool to help you with the screws if you don't have a screwdriver. An HDMI cord, a USB-A cord for data. The next two cables are your AC power, and to the right is a VGA cable. Across the top of the display are your buttons, power, anything to adjust the OSD settings, your contrast, brightness, color, and such like that. Connections. We start off with USB for data. Next we go to power. We have a VGA port, which no one's going to use. We have HDMI, an unadvertised feature I didn't notice, but your eyes do not deceive you. That is Displayport. Let me tell you why the move to Displayport is important. Because these manufacturers just aren't making video cards anymore with DVI. So in 2019, it's a bit overlooked. I think it's not really advertised, but the move to DVI to DisplayPort, gives purchasers more option. I mean, you can buy converters. It's a lot easier, to connect the different ports on your laptop and such. So to me, this is something I didn't want to go unnoticed. Finally, rip this thing off, and we're ready to turn it on. It's got a quick startup, relatively easy, and we're going to get going here right in a second. Boom, we're in. The Huion tablet driver, familiar territory for those of you who watch the channel, and it's been consistent amongst the last couple of years of Huion pen displays. This first key is going to allow you to configure your shortcut keys on your 10 Express keys, as well as change the default option of zoom on your touch strips. One important thing to note, this Enable Touch, it is not a touch display. These are just to turn on and off both the touch strips at the same time. It's not one or the other, it's all or nothing. Enable Press Keys is going to allow you to turn on and off your keys. Why you want to do that, don't know, but the option's there. Digital pen, this is where you're going to configure the shortcuts, on the the configurable pen buttons. If you don't like the pressure sensitivity out of the box, you can configure that here, as well as do a little handy little pressure test here when you're messing around with it. Windows Ink needs to be turned on for Windows 10, especially with the latest versions, or I find it didn't work right. The work area is very simple. Now, I've mentioned before, when I'm playing around with multiple displays especially, sometimes I got to go in there and tell the driver exactly which device I'm working with. That seems to be universal across any pen display I use. It's just something to note. Monitor calibration, that is how you're going to map your pen. We're going out of the box here just to see how good that is. And about finally is where you're going to import either settings, backup settings for your shortcut keys, or you're going to export the configuration you already have. Now, the one thing I would like to see is I would like to see Huion have the option to have multiple profiles per program, the way kind of Wacom does it. And, I just was testing this Logitech G13 device. We'll do a review on that later, but it also has the ability to do multiple profiles, and I find it pretty convenient. Now, most of these 2D programs, it doesn't matter anyway, because a lot of the shortcut keys are the same, and even then you can change them in the options, so it's not that big of a deal. More of a nice to have, just again, pushing Huion for that ultimate level of maturity that we see with Wacom and stuff like that. So in Sketchbook Pro, one thing I want to really hone in on is those light lines. We just did the Canvas Pro 16, and one thing I'm just curious about is how it is on the light end. We do get some good light lines, so we'll keep that consistency there. That's light. And then let's do some medium lines. I went a little hard on that one, but pretty good. That's an M, by the way. Now finally we're going to do some hard lines. And in Sketchbook Pro you could really see, I mean it's not, we have good separation here amongst the lines. I'd like a little more at the lighter end, but again, as we showed in the driver, that can probably be adjusted, and certainly we can adjust it through Sketchbook Pro. But out of the box, that's fantastic. Move to some ink strokes. We're looking for that taper off. I like to move in a little quicker now. And one thing I'm noticing is I don't have any shoelace effect. Now again, you guys know how I review. I'm way off to the left. It doesn't look that way. But the beginning of my stroke, as well as the end, has a nice taper off. And the quick lines, right in front of me. And I'm varying pressure here. And now remember, as opposed to the 22-inch last year where tilt was added, in fact we featured that reveal on the channel, this is tilt right out of the box, so you're not going to have to mess around with firmwares this time around. It's built into the pen. And I think this is a pretty good demonstration of how pressure sensitive this is and the kind of line quality you could probably expect. Okay, we see in Photoshop the zoom function works just fine. So these touch keys are good. Okay, we're going to do a line test here with a ruler, and something that irks me a little bit, actually probably in a very unhealthy way, is need to be consistent about these line tests if we're going to do them. Alright? So let me show you how you proper line test what you need to do. First of all, you need to pick a hard round brush, okay? 100% hardness. You start off with like a 5 pixel brush. Okay, next you're going to make sure shape dynamics, scattering, any kind of smoothing, anything but spacing is checked. Okay, if you don't have spacing checked, you're not going to get a straight line. But this is a dead brush. It's pretty much a dead weight brush. That's what you need to do a line test. Anything else, even in some of my early reviews, I was guilty of this also. If you do it with a pressure brush, you're going to have all kinds of problems. Next, you need to put a piece of cloth on the screen. Reason is because not only do you want to protect the screen, but you don't want your ruler moving around all over the place. Okay? Okay, all in all, not bad. We got a little bit of wobble. I'm off center, but I don't think that's me. But these are better than the ones last year. Probably not as good as the 16 they released, but could be the size of the screen. But I mean, all in all, you can live with it. It's really not bad. We're getting to a point here where now we're kind of nitpicking about it. I mean, the other thing you don't want to do with a line test is you really don't want to do it by hand, because your hand is going to be moving all over the place. But I mean, this isn't bad. Usually it gets worse with thicker lines, but maybe that was more me than I thought. Yeah, I guess there's a little bit of wobble there. It shows up more in the thinner lines, but in those thicker ones, it looks great. And obviously when you scale down, I mean, it's really hardly noticeable. Now, these line tests drive me nuts. I only do them because everybody's going to ask if you do them. Now, a lot of reviewers don't even do them, and I kind of feel like it's become the Moby Dick of pen displays, like it's these tests but truly you've seen now over the last couple iterations, it seems like the mainline manufacturers, Huion, they've solved this thing. I mean, it's not ever going to be perfect, but I'd like to see somebody in real time drawing slow diagonal lines like that, and just looking for a little wobble. This performed a lot better than one last year, as I mentioned, and to me, at this point, it's just a non-issue. So let's see how the drawing experience really is. Like, how does it feel? Now, we know this guy has a chemically etched glass coating, which is sort of in between what I think Wacom does and what nobody else does. In other words, a matte finish versus, some kind of tooth to the display. And for those of you who don't know, etched glass is really just the coating. It gives it, not a pencil texture, but a sort of texture, which is more than just a matte screen. It's sort of like a resistance. It doesn't feel bumpy. It's hard to understand unless you experience it. You can't really see it, although it can add a little bit to the graininess of the screen. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm so used to drawing on these things now I don't notice it anymore. So on the graininess, it's not really as much to do with the resolution. Well, maybe it is. It's more to do with the pixels per inch, the PPI. So imagine you have your phone, right? You have this super high resolution on this tiny ass little screen. So you're not going to see pixels. Now you take a 22-inch display and you have 1080p on there, so naturally you're blowing that screen up, and that's why you're seeing the pixels. So the actual resolution of the display is fine. What it really is in the 22-inch space, we need to start seeing manufacturers now move to either QHD or even 4K. Right now, as I mentioned, all the 22-inch displays right now are stuck at 1080p, so you don't really have a choice. So it's not really a knock on Huion or this device in particular. It's really, we've just reached a point where it's probably time to move forward. We're going to pick it up real slow here. I don't even know what I'm drawing, but point is, the pen feels great. Now, obviously, I've been using this style pen shape, etc. for quite a while now. So I've grown sort of accustomed to it. The one thing is too, folks, it feels very fluid. There's just enough feedback there to not, have you swimming all over the screen, like it was playing glass like an iPad or something like that. At the same time, there's a really nice flow to it. Is it a market improvement from last year? Yeah, I think it might be. I think this laminated screen really makes a difference. Switching to inks, we want to do a little cross hatching. Oh, that's way too thick. And what I'm looking for, I'm certainly not looking for cross hatch quality, but I'm looking to see how fast the pen keeps up with the cursor. And what I noticed immediately, I don't know if this camera will pick that up there, I'm hoping, or maybe even the camera on the left, but this cursor tracks and seems amongst the best I've ever seen. So we're gonna go, and the cursor is literally not, that EMR lag I talk about, it's there, but this one's really good. Like if you're one, see, that doesn't bother me, but you know, if you're one that, you know, that it's going to really bug you kind of thing, then this might be a display you want to look at, because I'm not noticing it much here. Again, forgive my awful attempt to ink something here, but you know, off to the side. But so zoomed in here, you can see some of those pixels I was talking about. But just a quick note on color that I might have forgotten. You know, last year's display had a bit of a washed out feel to it, and I don't just think it's the increased color gamut, but it's actually an improved display. The colors really pop on there, you know, just like the 16-inch and 13-inch before it. This is really a quality color display. I did have to tone it down, you know, and tune it. It's not calibrated out of the box, and it was a little too cool for me, but what an amazing difference in color quality in this display compared to last year's. You see how fast I get used to these shortcut keys, which is why I like them. I mean, it's like muscle memory for me, you know, going back. I mean, you know, there's other alternatives, and we'll talk about some of the other ones I've been using, but I mean, once you get the hang of them, you really miss them when they're not there. Let's just go back to this background layer. And for one more time, I want to do where I'm doing circles. We need that brush a little bigger. What I'm looking for is consistency. I'm looking for no pressure drop off. I don't have any dead zones. I don't have any tracking issues either. Which, you know, I'm doing the review, you know, you'd think I'd know better or be smart enough to mention it. But, you know, a lot of times these EMR devices, well, we mentioned the EMR, the cursor tracking, so maybe it's not a surprise, but this thing with the pen in the corners and the accuracy of the tools and just all this kind of stuff, it's over. I mean, I'm all over. They've completely solved that. It's quick, it's responsive, and it's accurate. I'm not making any mistakes. You know, no Control Z because I'm hitting the wrong thing. Now I got my dope Huion glove on, so I'm not smearing or drawing any lines or such like that. So any of those problems are gone. I'm not seeing any of the legacy problems that plague pen displays exist here. And that's really the important statement, right? All these legacy things that have gone on for years, since the whole Cintiq alternative thing has really popped up. In this display, you know, for the most part, all of those things have sort of been eliminated. So in a way, I think we've kind of reached the, I don't want to use the word pinnacle, but I think we've sort of reached a level now where at 22 inches at 1080p, a laminated display, unless we started throwing improvements on there, it's almost what I'm seeing with this particular display, the improvement in color, the pen accuracy, the wobble improvement, all these different things. To I think we're going to reach a point, like I said earlier, where the next big jump is going to be that manufacturer takes a chance on like a QHD or a 4K or something like that. So I'm going to make a statement. I don't want anybody to go all brand warfare crazy, but in a 22-inch space now, this is this is the best display you can get in 22 inches. Now just remember what I said. I said 22 inches. So I'm not comparing apples to oranges to bigger displays or things made by other people with, you know, 4K or whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm saying across 22 inches, no matter who makes it, this is the best display I've used at this size. So I'll leave it at that. Great improvement from Huion. I like that they don't rest on their laurels, so somebody like me, when I take a little jab here and there, that's just me pushing them forward because, you know, I'm sort of behind the brand. I like other brands too, you guys know that. I don't play the brand warfare, but, you know, as artists, we want to push forward and we want to keep getting improvements and ultimately having these manufacturers make better devices. So that's it for me. Hope you like this video. You know, hit the like below for me. That's really important now. And leave some comments below and we'll talk about it. And I'll check you guys out in the next one.